All right, so I think this is kind of a stupid idea, but you guys request it all the time, so I'm gonna do it because everything's out of the garage anyways, because I'm reorganizing. So these are the 5 ATVs I have right now that I've been messing with. ATVs meaning things with 4 wheels. I know that's a side-by-side, but it's also an all-terrain vehicle. I know that's a 3-wheeler, which is an ATC, but whatever. ATVs, quad bikes, whatever. All right, so I'll start with this one. We go newest to oldest, kinda. Well, those are in the wrong order, but whatever. 2021 Talon X. Just made a video on this if you want more information. You already had a Talon R. I got this primarily to put 8-inch portals on it. The reason I want 8-inch portals is to run my 38-inch Aztecs because it'll be cool. Yes, it's going to ruin it for doing donuts and stuff like that, but I'll test it out. Probably get tired of it, either sell it or take the portals off pretty quick, but it'll be fun. The X is a little narrower, and the reason I like it for portals is because number 1, it's narrower, the R is already too wide, and number 2, it has simpler rear suspension. It has regular trailing arm and 2 radius rods, and because of that, this trailing arm bolts with 4 bias bolts and nuts to the knuckle, which means that the knuckle is rigidly fixed to the trailing arm, aka the portal will be. I don't like the idea of having the ball joint on the 4+ link suspension the Talon R has, the ball joint with the portal with the top link, and this is a much more simple, solid setup, and this is what everyone else does. The reason the Talon R has some crazy complicated suspension was because Honda was trying to get the highest travel number possible to compete with other side-by-sides on a spec sheet, so they made it all crazy to get long travel. They didn't really work out. No one really loves the Talon suspension, but Honda did it just to be competitive, basically. The problem with the Talon, everyone knows, the control arm mounts here, or the trailing arm, when it should mount up here, and it should be about a foot longer. But that's what it's not. It's not for really dunes, despite what they say for the R. This is the best trail side-by-side, and definitely because of the transmission and the engine. We're gonna put 8-inch portals on it. I'm gonna change the rear springs. These rear springs are way too stiff. I wish the shocks had more adjustability. They have the little 3-position clicker like the Can-Am does. Not a huge fan. But other than that, it's the exact same Talon that I know and love. Most reliable, you know, rugged, robust side-by-side I've ever owned. Jump it, flip it, whatever. Very tough, very strong. Even hydrolock it. They're very, very robust. This is a 2020 Rubicon 520. It's got 4-inch portals on it, Elka shocks. This one's actually for sale. There's another video on this with all the details on it if you're interested. It's got the raked arms, just put big hive joints in, all that stuff. These are the 30-inch cryptids that came on here. They're absolutely garbage. I wanted to test them on a 4-wheeler or a Honda because they were terrible on the Can-Am. I want to see if they're as bad on the Honda. Honda's got plenty of ground clearance, even with the 30s, which are really like 28s. But they just dig holes. I don't know why they're so bad. They look like they'd be okay, but ran them at Holopal, was not impressed. One of the least impressive tires I've tried. And that's what Can-Am does, right? They try to find the smallest, least traction tire possible to put on there to save the belt from idiots that are gonna hit every single hole in high range. The number 1 question I get with the Talon is, what's the biggest tire it can spin? A Talon, depending on how you drive it and everything like that, I think a 33 is as big as I would go, and I mean like a mild, skinny 33, like a 33 Aztec, for instance, or maybe a 33 BKT TR1 44, something like that. Something light, skinny. You can put a 33 on it, and you're not gonna hurt the clutches in most situations. I4-wheel drive will still work okay. Once you go past the 33, you gotta do the 4-wheel drive delete, I4-wheel drive delete, or bypass. That's a good mod if you're gonna go over 33, but put it on 33s, you'll love it. You don't need to go any bigger than that. And if you wanna go bigger, put portals. The Rubicon stock, you can run a mild 30 with stock gearing. The portals are a 41% reduction if you do the math the same way we calculate reductions in the Honda 300. And if you do that, you know, this thing can run a 33 Aztec pretty well, but if you run a real fat or a real aggressive tire, it will bog. So obviously these little 28.5 whatever cryptids don't even bother it. You could turn those on a stock Rubicon, no problem. The portals are a cool mod. I like them better than I thought. The new ones will have some rake built into the brackets, which will be great, and they'll have some improved mounting for the ball joints. You could use a screw-in ball joint instead of just the regular press fit with the snap ring. Still the number 1 4-wheeler on the market right now, the 520 Rubicon. Yes, I realize mine has a different front bumper, and that confuses all of you because I put a bumper off of 2015-ish on it because I hate the new bumper, but this is a 520, 2020. The only complaint people have ever had with these is the 4x4 light flashing. You know, you gotta press the button every time you get on it and start it. You hear it lock. If you get in the habit of doing that, 99% of people don't have issues with the 4-wheel drive system, but If you water ride a lot, I'm not sure why, I've tried to figure it out a lot of times, something gets messed up in the four-wheel drive light flashes. But other than that, this is the most bulletproof, best ATV ever made. Which brings me to this next one. Okay, so if this is the best, why did I buy this? So when you've been doing ATV stuff as long as I have, and you've had as many as I have, you can, in some situations, need more power. Speed and power can be helpful. So this 2021 Renegade has a lot of power and torque. Most people don't need it. Most people can't use it effectively. Hate to break it to you, but I can't use the full power of this bike in 90% of situations, and I kind of know what I'm doing. Most people, this is plenty of bike for them, and they'll do just fine. You know, as long as you don't put it on too big, heavy tires, it's quick enough if you don't gear it too low and everything. But if you had, I think it's my 5th Rubicon, you get really comfortable with that, it does get a little bit boring. That's where this comes in. So, insane amount of power and torque. It doesn't feel super fast right out of the box. It's geared almost too low on the stock little tiny 28s. It feels faster on these light 33 Aztecs. But you really can't appreciate the power and torque this thing makes until you put it in some deep, thick mud and you throttle down and you realize, shit, it didn't even bog for a second. It just lit the tires up. So that's what it's for. It's for hauling ass through some thicker muds and puddles. Obviously, even though it's on 33s and this is on 28s, this has way more ground clearance because it's just got giant differentials, a really tall engine, the frame hangs down low, it's heavy, etc. But in situations where ground clearance isn't the issue, it's cleaning out the tires or, you know, keeping momentum, the Can-Am's gonna win every single time. So they're completely opposite, which is why I have one of each. If I had to pick one, I would 100% pick the Rubicon. This thing is already making some front diff noises. I'm waiting for it to go out before it goes into the dealership, but it's got, something's kind of funny with the front diff. I don't even think it's the locker though, because it's doing it even when it's in regular front wheel drive. I'm like a popping. It could just be a CV or something simple like that, but haven't completely diagnosed it yet. Haven't really ridden it a whole lot. I've only have a couple good mud rides on it. And it's, you know, it's obviously brand new, so it's working fine. But we expect all that to change because it's a Can-Am and it'll start falling apart. So far, my differentials and everything have been sealed well. They have clear lines on them, so you can look and see if you're getting moisture building up in those lines. That's a nice feature, but I checked all the fluids after the first ride going deep and everything looked pretty good. Only upgrades I've done so far is change the gasket on the airbox cover because the stock gasket will let water in, and I put synthetic rope on here in another video if you want to see how to do that. And of course, I bolted on the 33-inch Aztecs because they're the best tire. That is currently my favorite size of Aztec, that and the 38s. I just like the profile the most and they ride the best and stuff. I would like to have 3 sets of these and run 33 Aztecs on all 3 of these machines. That's the perfect tire for the Rubicon, by the way, is the 33-inch Aztec. But yeah, so this thing, jury's still out on it. We don't know how it's gonna work out. It's pretty similar to my 2016 that completely fell apart and spun a rod bearing. But the reason we bought it, obviously, was because it has diff lock now, and that's really cool, so we're gonna test that out. Just need to find more time to ride it. This, and also the other problem is my truck's broken, so I don't have a truck right now. Thanks, Ford. Yeah, anyways, different story there. 1997 Honda 300 FW. I've had this one for a while. You guys have seen a lot of videos on it. This is like my 10th 300. 2.5-inch stretch, 350D rear axle, axle paddle and brace, brake delete, which is just cutting off the brake back plate. Yeah, that's it for the back of it. Motor's all stock except for 54% gear reduction. Very cherry motor. This thing was immaculate when I bought it. Front diff has the torque gearless locker, which works very similar to the old Detroit gearless locker. It's actually better. And it's got 420 Rancher shocks. If you want the details on that, I have another video on how I did all that, what year and everything. Instead of commenting here, why don't you go watch the other video and figure it out for yourself, you lazy pieces of shit. No. Those are 32-inch Aztecs on double bead locks. 2x4 lockout is required to go with the gearless locker, if you ask me. Stealth spa hose snorkels working well. It's fine for a stock 300 stock motor. I did put a 300EX carburetor or 400EX carburetor on it because I like the accelerator pump and the throttle response. This thing pulls pretty good for an all stock motor. It'll turn the show, these 32-inch Aztecs. 33 is pushing it, but it does it okay. You could use a little more power, like a 317 big bore kit. This bike is just phenomenal. It actually rides really good the way I got it set up. It's a pretty mild build. It didn't do anything crazy or stupid, so the factory geometry has been pretty much maintained. Basically 2 inches of lift all the way around and good tires, but as you can see, it's got more ground clearance than the Can-Am because it's gotten very nice compact differentials where this Can-Am is just built like a truck. But of course this has, 18 horsepower and that has 90 horsepower, so a little difference there. This is, I think it's a 1985 Big Red. This is the vehicle out of these that I've had the longest and that I will probably have forever. As you can see, my vent lines aren't even hooked up. It mostly gets used around the yard right now. It's a fun thing to putt around on. Actually, I hit that jump with it. That was kind of hysterical. I don't know why my phone's so foggy right now. It is moist outside. This thing's really cool. I don't really do any maintenance on it. I just drive it around and beat the crap out of it. And yeah, it's got a lift on it. It's got a 300EX swing arm convert, or 300 FW. That stock swing arm's on here for like a 2-inch rake. Makes it a little more stable. You can run a 30 on it. It's got an 18% gear reduction. It's got about a 2-inch front lift. It slid the forks down. There's some other videos on that. These snorkels came out really cool. It breathes through the frame and then goes to flex pipe and then goes to 2 little snorkels. This motor pulls extremely hard. Everyone that rides this is always really impressed with how much more power this has than this. Obviously, it's got lighter tires on it. It's a little bit lighter of a machine, but something about these big reds with that cam and that header and everything and the way they're tuned, they pull harder than 300s. Big reds are just the shit. And of course, because it's a 3-wheeler, you're only steering one front wheel, so it feels like it's got power steering, got a good turning radius and all that. Yeah, so that's a walk around of each of these machines and me yapping a lot. I'll walk around the back, I guess. Yeah. So, what's coming next projects is 8-inch portals for this thing. I'm gonna wait till I get it tested out. I want to put different, I ordered the Weller Racing rear spring kit for it. Try to soften up the back. I'm gonna wait till I get it tested out and get it before I put the portals on it. Because it is a lot of fun in its current configuration for spinning donuts and hitting jumps and shit. That's why I've been making jumps in the yard for it with. I mean, it's just, it'll fly over that jump. It's phenomenal. But 8-inch portals on that, 8-inch portals on that, pretty much everything else stock, 38, see how it does. This is for sale because I'm going to get another Rubicon and I want to do the new portal setup on it. So I'm just going to start from scratch. This is, I don't know what I'm doing next on here, probably nothing. Maybe I'll put paddle tires on it and do some skimming. But it's staying pretty much stock just for hauling ass and blasting around. This is complete, this is perfection. You can't improve on this anymore. So it's going to stay the same. And this, I'm probably going to put some 28-inch Aztecs on the back of it, maybe some 30s, just to go take it to Hullapaw and use it some. These tires are so bad, I can't take the Hullapaw with these. I'll be stuck everywhere. But yeah, that's the current fleet right now. And yeah, there's nothing really else I want to buy. I don't even know if any new side-by-sides are coming out, but the only thing that I wish they would improve on the Talon is the suspension. I wish they would make like a serious, you know, dune version of it that had a longer wheelbase. Basically, it, you know, not even just rake the arms back, because that's what the R is, right? See, these axles are straight, right? The R, see the axle's straight. The R has a bunch of rake. I want to see Honda actually take that differential and move that back a foot. You know, it wouldn't be hard. Just redesign that and then get us some better tunable shocks so this thing could really eat up some whoops. This one rides very, very rough in its configuration. The Talon R is a little rough, but the wheelbase is short on them, so they buck. If you park this next to a KRX, the KRX is like, I don't know, it looks like a foot longer than this thing. And that's one of the reasons they ride so much better.